An $80 million lawsuit, a live TV meltdown, and two of the most powerful women in politics at war. What pushed AOC to the edge? And why is Pam Bondi demanding millions? You won't believe what happened next. The shocking moment that stunned America. She didn't see it coming until it was too late. Those were the words echoing across the internet as one of the most explosive political moments of the year erupted into public view. Pam Bondi, a seasoned legal heavyweight and former Florida Attorney General, dropped a legal nuke on Capitol Hill, an $80 million lawsuit aimed directly at one of the most visible and outspoken figures in modern American politics, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, better known simply as AOC. The lawsuit alone would have been enough to shake the political landscape. But what happened next? No one was prepared for that. Just hours after news broke, during what was supposed to be a routine day in Congress, AOC suffered a full-blown emotional collapse, live on national television. The scene was surreal. Shouting, pacing, visibly shaken, and on the verge of tears, she stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by silence, with every camera locked on her. The moment played out like a movie scene, only it wasn't scripted. It was raw, real, and absolutely riveting. Millions watched it live. Millions more watched it again and again online. Within minutes, hashtags like AOC Meltdown, Pam Bondi Sues, and Congress Clash were dominating global trends. TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere you looked, someone was talking about it, reacting to it, or breaking it down, frame by frame. But let's rewind for a moment. This wasn't just a legal dispute. This was a collision of power, ideology, ego, and public perception. AOC, the young, fiery, progressive icon known for her relentless takedowns of Republicans and establishment figures, versus Pam Bondi, the tough-as-nails conservative legal enforcer with a record of high-profile wins. Their clash was inevitable, but no one expected it to escalate this fast or this dramatically. It all started with a tense exchange during a congressional oversight hearing last month. AOC, in her typical assertive style, grilled Bondi, who was testifying in her capacity as a legal expert on government ethics. What was meant to be a policy discussion quickly turned personal. AOC's tone sharpened. She made veiled accusations, then direct ones. She hinted at corruption, insinuated financial wrongdoing, and accused Bondi of coordinated disinformation efforts, all without offering documented proof. The headlines exploded the next morning. Cable news ran with it, social media amplified it. Memes, reaction videos, and conspiracy theories spread like wildfire. And Bondi? She didn't say much, not at first. But behind the scenes, she was preparing a storm. 2 weeks later, she stepped to the podium in front of the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C., surrounded by reporters and legal counsel. With ice-cold precision, she announced what the political world had been dreading. I am filing an $80 million defamation and reputational harm lawsuit against Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for knowingly spreading false and damaging statements that have endangered my family, my career, and my safety. The silence that followed was deafening. Reporters rushed to cover every word. Legal experts began debating the case before they'd even read the full complaint. Overnight, Bondi went from quiet witness to center of a national firestorm. And AOC, she went quiet. No posts, no tweets, no statements. Until she didn't. What happened next has already been called one of the most emotional live moments in congressional history. During a scheduled floor session, with the cameras rolling and the nation watching, AOC requested to address the chamber. She started calm, measured, delivering a familiar narrative about political attacks and coordinated smear campaigns. But as she spoke about the lawsuit, her tone shifted. Her voice cracked. Her words stumbled. Her body language betrayed a storm brewing inside. She paused, visibly overwhelmed, hand gripping the podium. A long silence followed, painful, powerful, and unforgettable. She looked down, seemingly fighting back tears. the internet erupted. Some called it a breakdown, others said it was a calculated emotional appeal. But everyone agreed it was the most vulnerable the public had ever seen her. Clips of the moment dominated reels and feeds for days. Emotional music edits, slow-motion breakdowns, political commentary videos. It became the most dissected moment of AOC's career. But here's what makes it so shocking. This wasn't just another political fight. This was personal, emotional, legal, national, viral. It wasn't just about left versus right. It was about power versus accountability. It was about the cost of going viral, the danger of accusations, and the weight of public words. Pam Bondi didn't just sue a politician, she sued a symbol. And AOC? She didn't just respond, she broke down on the floor of the House in front of the world. So the real questions now are, what did AOC say that sparked an $80 million lawsuit? Can Bondi actually win this in court, or is this all political theater? And what does this emotional implosion mean for AOC's future in politics? One thing is certain. This moment will be remembered for years. A legal grenade was thrown, and in its aftermath, we're left with the image of one of America's most recognizable political figures, shaken, emotional, exposed. This wasn't just a lawsuit. This was a shock. Inside the $80 million lawsuit, Bondi's side of Inside the Story. Pam Bondi has never been one to shy away from a legal fight. If you know her history, you know exactly why this lawsuit has political circles rattled. Bondi's legal career spans over 2 decades, and during her time as Florida's Attorney General from 2011 to 2019, she became known for taking on everything from organized crime rings to big pharma. But she didn't stop there. She made headlines again when she joined Donald Trump's impeachment defense team in 2020, bringing her firebrand style of legal defense to the national stage. So when she stood outside a federal courthouse, stone-faced, flanked by her attorneys, holding a 100-page complaint marked Ocasio-Cortez, defamation and malicious conduct, the political world knew something big was coming. And big it was. Bondi's lawsuit accuses Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of AOC of orchestrating a coordinated character assassination campaign against her. At the heart of the case is a congressional oversight hearing held earlier this month, broadcast live and widely circulated on social media, where AOC allegedly made a string of false, slanderous, and damaging allegations. According to the complaint, AOC suggested multiple times that Bondi had been involved in unethical dealings and even hinted at financial links to extremist political organizations. Though she didn't offer direct proof, the implications were clear, and the damage, according to Bondi, was immediate and widespread. The fallout, a digital firestorm. Within hours, Bondi's name was trending on X, formerly Twitter. Not for an award, not for an achievement, but as the target of a brutal social media storm. Accusations, hate messages, memes, edited video clips, and anonymous threats began flooding her inboxes and public comment sections. Some users went further, doxing her personal information, revealing her address, private phone number, and family details. One viral tweet claimed she was linked to domestic extremist funding networks, a claim her attorneys later called pure fabrication with no legal or factual basis. But in the court of public opinion, the damage was done. Speaking engagements were canceled, brand partnerships froze, death threats arrived at her office. According to the lawsuit, Bondi had to hire round-the-clock private security, pull out of 2 high-profile conferences, and even move her family to a secure location for 10 days after an alarming security breach. In a public statement, Bondi said, "The internet is not a courtroom. You can't make up lies and expect there to be no consequences. Words matter. Reputations matter. And I will not allow mine to be destroyed for political theater." Breaking down the lawsuit. The $80 million in damages breaks down into several categories. $30 million for reputational damage, $20 million for emotional distress and mental anguish, $15 million for lost business opportunities and contracts, $10 million for physical security upgrades and ongoing safety needs, $5 million in punitive damages. Bondi's legal team is also requesting a formal retraction, a public apology on the House floor, and a written admission from AOC that her remarks were unsubstantiated and harmful. Lead attorney Michael Travers, who has represented high-profile public figures in similar suits, told reporters, "We're not just fighting for Ms. Bondi's name, we're fighting for the principle that elected officials, regardless of their popularity, cannot weaponize their platform to destroy private citizens." The political undertones. While the lawsuit centers around defamation, there's no denying the deep political context surrounding it. Bondi, a Trump ally, has long criticized what she calls the radicalization of Congress by activist members. AOC, a symbol of progressive politics, has made headlines for taking on conservative figures and publicly calling out perceived corruption. This lawsuit marks one of the first times a major political figure has sued a sitting member of Congress for public comments made during official proceedings. Legal scholars are now debating whether this case could challenge the boundaries of congressional immunity, traditionally a shield that protects lawmakers from litigation related to their floor speeches and official duties. But Bondi's team argues that AOC's statements weren't made as part of legislative debate. They were, in their words, deliberate personal attacks crafted for media consumption, not policy discussion. They may be trying to pierce the long-standing legal armor of speech and debate protections in order to hold AOC accountable in a court of law, not just the court of public opinion. What Bondi wants, and what she's willing to do. Pam Bondi has made it clear, this is not about politics for her. In a powerful moment during her press conference, she looked directly at the camera and said, "This is not Republican versus Democrat. This is right versus wrong. If we allow politicians to destroy reputations without consequences, then no one is safe. Not me, not you, not your family." Bondi's team has also confirmed that they're prepared to go all the way to trial, even if it means facing delays, appeals, or congressional resistance. One insider claimed that Bondi has already turned down 2 private settlement offers because she believes a public reckoning is more important than a private payoff. Her strategy appears focused on public accountability and precedent-setting justice, a message that resonates with many Americans, regardless of political affiliation. As of now, AOC has not responded directly to the allegations in the suit, but her spokesperson called the lawsuit a desperate and baseless protective attempt to silence criticism. But in the eyes of Bondi's team, silence won't be enough. AOC's response and her unexpected meltdown on live TV. When news of Pam Bondi's $80 million lawsuit against Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez broke, it sent a tidal wave through Capitol Hill. But while the media jumped on the story immediately, the woman at the center of the storm, AOC, remained unusually quiet. For over 24 hours, there was no tweet, no Instagram story, no press statement. For someone as active and vocal as AOC, who's known to respond to breaking news within minutes, the silence was deafening. Many speculated that she was in legal consultations. Others thought she was planning a strategic media response, but no one expected what came next. It was supposed to be an ordinary congressional session, a day filled with legislative discussions, policy amendments, and floor votes. But that day turned into a historical spectacle when AOC requested time to speak. At first, she stood with the same fire and poise that had made her a progressive icon. Her tone was forceful, her words measured. She described the lawsuit as an orchestrated political stunt designed to distract the public and damage her character. She then turned her focus toward the right-wing media, accusing them of launching a vicious smear campaign in collaboration with conservative operatives to undermine her credibility. Her supporters in the chamber nodded along, clearly expecting another one of her signature takedowns. But then, something shifted. Once steady, began to tremble. "I have been under attack since the day I stepped into this chamber," she said, her voice cracking. "But I will not be silenced by threats, lawsuits, or partisan intimidation." She paused, blinked hard, and then suddenly fell completely silent. The room froze. AOC looked down, visibly emotional. She placed her hand over her face, struggling to compose herself. For nearly 10 full seconds, an eternity in live television, she couldn't speak. No sound, no motion, just raw, visible tension. The atmosphere in the chamber was surreal. Some lawmakers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others leaned forward, uncertain whether to intervene or wait. A few of AOC's colleagues could be seen whispering among themselves, clearly unsure what was unfolding before them. And then, just like that, every major cable news outlet, live stream, and social media platform picked up the feed. The internet exploded. Within minutes, the clip of her emotional pause was cut, captioned, and distributed across TikTok, X, YouTube, and Instagram. The hashtags AOC Breakdown, Pam versus AOC, and Congress Drama began trending not just in the US, but globally. In less than 24 hours, the clip had over 15 million views on TikTok and was featured on nearly every major political talk show. Conservative commentators called it a meltdown under pressure. Some even mocked her, suggesting she was using emotional manipulation to shift the narrative. But her defenders saw something very different. They praised her vulnerability, saying it was a rare moment of human honesty in a world full of rehearsed speeches and fake smiles. Prominent figures on the left rallied behind her, calling the moment brave, real, and a necessary breakdown in the face of relentless attacks. Progressive activist groups took to X, calling out what they saw as a pattern of harassment that women, especially women of color, face in politics. AOC didn't break down because she's weak, one post read. She broke down because she's human, and the weight of fighting this system every single day eventually breaks through the armor. Late-night hosts weighed in too. While some joked lightheartedly, others took a more serious tone, calling attention to the mental and emotional toll of modern politics, especially in the age of viral outrage. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, AOC's office declined further comment, issuing only a brief statement saying she would continue to focus on serving her constituents and defending her name through appropriate channels. But insiders reported that the Congresswoman was deeply shaken and had canceled at least 2 media appearances in the following days. Political analysts across the spectrum debated the impact of the moment. Some argued it was a turning point, a crack in AOC's usually polished public image that could weaken her political momentum. Others said it could strengthen her base even further, portraying her as an empathetic, overburdened public servant who isn't afraid to show her emotions under pressure. Legal experts chimed in, too. Several speculated that her visible distress could be used against her in court, painting a picture of a politician overwhelmed by the fallout of her own reckless statements. But supporters pushed back on that narrative, saying Bondi's lawsuit was a deliberate attempt to provoke a public reaction and corner AOC into a moment of weakness. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain. This wasn't just a political response, it was a national moment. AOC's breakdown, or breakthrough depending on your perspective, will go down as one of the most discussed political moments in recent memory. Whether it helps or hurts her in the long run remains to be seen. But for now, the clip lives on, replayed, reanalyzed, and remembered by millions around the world as the moment when a fierce fighter showed her most fragile side. Reactions from Washington and beyond. A political earthquake. The fallout from this high-stakes legal clash has spread far beyond courtrooms and congressional chambers. It sent shockwaves through every corner of the American political spectrum, igniting fierce debates, media firestorms, and a deep cultural divide that's still unfolding in real time. As soon as the lawsuit became public, it was like throwing gasoline on an already roaring political fire. Within hours, Republican lawmakers were out in force. From Capitol Hill to conservative talk shows, they rallied behind Pam Bondi, praising her for taking what they called a bold and necessary stand against what they described as a dangerous trend of unchecked rhetoric by certain members of Congress. Florida Senator Richard Halbrook didn't hold back. Standing on the Senate floor, he declared, "If this were reversed, if a Republican accused a private citizen of criminal behavior with no evidence, the mainstream media would be screaming for resignation. But because it's AOC, they give her a pass. That double standard ends now. It's time for accountability." GOP figures even began drafting a resolution to introduce a new code of conduct for elected officials, one that would penalize members for knowingly spreading false claims about private citizens or government witnesses during hearings. Though still in its early stages, the proposed measure has already gained significant support among conservatives and some moderates. On the other side of the aisle, Democrats were notably more divided. Privately, several party insiders expressed concern about AOC's increasingly confrontational tone. One senior aide, speaking anonymously, said, "There's admiration for her passion, yes, but there's also fear that her approach could backfire, not just on her, but on the progressive agenda as a whole. This lawsuit is a wake-up call." Publicly, however, many progressives stood firmly by her side. Representative Ilhan Omar tweeted just hours after AOC's emotional moment, "They're afraid of strong women who speak truth to power. We stand with AOC. We've got her back." Rashida Tlaib, another member of the squad, held a press briefing where she called the lawsuit a clear attempt to silence dissent and chill the voices of women of color in government. The Democratic leadership, however, remained largely silent, a signal to many that party leaders were waiting to see how the situation evolved before picking a side. A legal community divided. While politicians scrambled, the legal community began dissecting the lawsuit with surgical precision. Some legal scholars believe Bondi's case will face an uphill climb due to the stringent legal standard for defamation involving public officials. According to the landmark Supreme Court decision in New York Times Company v. Sullivan, public figures must prove actual malice, that is, that the statements were made knowingly false or with reckless disregard for the truth. But others argue that the digital age has changed everything. Attorney Rachel Marks, a former federal prosecutor, explained during a CNN panel, "We're living in a time where a single clip, a few words, or even a sarcastic tone can reach millions in minutes and cause irreversible damage. The law hasn't caught up with the pace of social media. This case could be the one that forces a re-examination." Several prominent law schools have even scheduled emergency panels and forums to analyze the case and its implications for First Amendment protections, congressional immunity, and the future of public discourse. Public obsession and cultural impact. Outside of D.C. and legal circles, the American public remains glued to the drama. From primetime cable shows to grassroots podcasts, everyone seems to have an opinion on the lawsuit, AOC's breakdown, and what it all means for the country. News outlets have brought in not just lawyers, but body language analysts, media psychologists, and political strategists to break down AOC's emotional moment frame by frame. Was it genuine? Was it tactical? Was it the stress of constant political warfare finally surfacing? Dr. Jenna Laramie, a media psychologist interviewed by MSNBC, said, "Whether she meant to or not, AOC's breakdown humanized her. It made her relatable, but it also revealed the toll of modern political life, especially for younger representatives under constant scrutiny." Meanwhile, TikTok and YouTube creators are releasing hourly updates, fan edits, reaction videos, and even parody skits. AOC's tearful pause has become one of the most dissected and meme-ified political moments of the year, with millions of views and counting. And the divide is deepening. To her supporters, AOC is a brave woman being unfairly targeted for speaking out, while Bondi is viewed as a tool of the political establishment, trying to silence truth-tellers. To her critics, AOC is finally being held accountable for years of unchecked rhetoric and arrogance, while Bondi is a hero standing up against the abuse of congressional power. And then there are those in the middle, Americans who are tired of the political theatrics, tired of the constant viral outrage, and just want accountability, fairness, and truth from those in power. A moment that may redefine political conduct. What's undeniable is that this lawsuit and the public spectacle surrounding it has ignited a broader conversation, one about the role of emotion in leadership, the power of public platforms, and the real-world consequences of political speech in the age of viral media. In just days, what started as a legal complaint has become a national reckoning. And as politicians pick sides, legal minds prepare for battle, and the internet keeps spinning. One thing is certain. This isn't just a political earthquake. It's the beginning of a seismic shift. What happens next could redefine how public figures speak, how we hold them accountable, and how emotion and power intersect in modern American politics. The eyes of the nation are watching. The shocking moment that stunned America expanded. She didn't see it coming until it was too late. That sentence has now been repeated on every major news network, across social media platforms, and in coffee shop conversations from coast to coast. Because what unfolded over the course of just a few days has become nothing short of a political thunderstorm. In what's now being called one of the biggest political bombshells of the year, former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi, a legal titan with a reputation for fighting hard and never backing down, has filed an eye-popping $80 million lawsuit against Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, known globally as AOC. But that was just the beginning. Because mere hours after the legal paperwork hit the press, something happened that no one saw coming. AOC had a public emotional breakdown on live TV in front of the world. And in today's media landscape, where every second is recorded, clipped, and streamed across millions of screens, it didn't take long before hashtag AOC Meltdown was the #1 trend in the United States. Let's rewind and break down exactly how we got here, why this clash matters, and what it says about the future of American politics. The perfect storm of power, pressure, and personality. For years, AOC has been one of the most polarizing figures in Washington, a hero to progressives, a lightning rod for conservatives, and a constant target in political debates. She's built her brand on direct confrontation, unapologetic ideals, and viral soundbites. Pam Bondi, on the other hand, is the embodiment of old-school conservative legal power. She's fought everything from cybercrime to corruption and stood alongside Donald Trump during his impeachment defense. She's strategic, tactical, and rarely misses her mark. So when AOC accused Bondi of potential corruption during a highly televised committee hearing without offering concrete evidence, the battle lines were drawn. Bondi didn't shout. She didn't tweet. Instead, she did what she's known for. She sued. The $80 million lawsuit immediately changed the game. It wasn't just a PR battle anymore. It became a legal war. The timing couldn't have been more explosive. The moment that captivated a nation. As the lawsuit made headlines, political analysts, legal commentators, and influencers across every platform began dissecting the situation. Cable news ran hourly segments, podcasts dropped emergency episodes, and social media turned into a courtroom of public opinion. AOC, known for her quick reactions and frequent social media posts, went silent. No tweets, no interviews, no comments. For over 24 hours, the world waited for her response. And then, it came. Not through a carefully worded statement, not through a press conference, but during a live session on the House floor where unrelated legislative discussions were taking place. What began as a strong, passionate rebuttal quickly spiraled into something far more vulnerable and far more dramatic. AOC started by calling the lawsuit a manufactured distraction by extremist conservatives and accused the media of fueling what she labeled as a political witch hunt. But then, her voice began to crack, her words slowed. She looked down, her breathing changed. And then, in a moment that millions would replay endlessly, she froze. 10 seconds of dead silence. No speech. No sound, just the image of one of America's most powerful young politicians, clearly overwhelmed, trying to hold back emotion as cameras zoomed in. The chamber fell silent. The internet did not. Instant viral sensation. The clip was uploaded within minutes. By the end of the hour, it had gone viral, and by the end of the day, over 70 million views had been recorded across YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Some called it a moment of pure authenticity. Others labeled it a public unraveling. The country was split. Supporters praised her for showing real emotion in the face of relentless attacks. To them, this was what courage looked like, standing your ground even when it hurts. Critics, however, mocked the scene. They said it was an orchestrated sympathy ploy designed to distract from the real issue, that a sitting member of Congress was now being sued for allegedly abusing her platform to destroy a private citizen's reputation. But regardless of opinion, no one could deny the power of the moment. It became more than a viral clip, it became a cultural event. A nation watching a real-time breakdown of the modern political machine. What makes this story so powerful isn't just the lawsuit. It's the convergence of politics, law, emotion, and media spectacle, all happening in real time with the public watching every twist. In many ways, AOC's reaction became symbolic of the modern political experience. Non-stop scrutiny, viral pressure, constant conflict, and the blurred line between fact and feeling. People weren't just reacting to what was said. They were reacting to how it felt, to the body language, the tone, the silence, the tears just behind the eyes. And Pam Bondi? She didn't say a word in response to the clip. No tweets, no interviews, no press releases, just silence. A sharp contrast to the flood of noise surrounding AOC. It was a power play in itself. Let the footage speak. Let the public decide. What happens next? The truth is, we're witnessing the opening act of a much bigger drama. AOC's breakdown may have won her sympathy, or it may have signaled vulnerability at a crucial time. Pam Bondi's lawsuit might be dismissed, or it might go to trial and become the legal battle of the decade.